Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the last session of the day. This, I think, is going to be brilliant because where do I start? First, I heard Dana speak at Call to Action conference first
Right.
time when we were both on the stage. And I loved your talk. You were talking about the connection between PPC and branding.
Mhm.
And that was incredible. And then we both spoke at Moz, and I saw you speak there, and that was incredible. So I knew that I just had to have you on. And I'm really excited because you're going to be talking about retention today. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to do too many intros because I'm going to just let you tell everyone about yourself. But yeah, I'm just going to let you take it away. And guys, if you have any questions, just pop them over in the chat on the right-hand side, as we've been doing all day. People are very excited about this talk, and so am I. So I'm just going to let you
All right.
get started.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, Miranda just put in chat, Kickpoint once put a manatee in a newsletter because I asked. That is true. I remember actually doing that and finding a manatee for you. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. All right. So my name's Ditomaso. I'm the president and a partner at Kickpoint. We're a digital marketing agency, and we help companies either take or keep their marketing in-house because it is often cheaper and more cost effective, and you get more done when you're able to keep it in-house. So a lot of what we do is training and coaching to help companies do better marketing. And so today I'm going to be talking about retention and the idea that not all sessions are created equal. So let's get started here. Just going to share my screen. All right. And we're good. All right, so not all sessions are created equal. I mean, of course, you know this in your heart that not all sessions are created equal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's something that you think about on a regular basis. And so that's something that I want to start us thinking about today is the idea that not all sessions are created equal. And so what I'm going to start with is the idea that there are three types of visitors who come to your site. There are the people who will never, ever be customers. And I have an example about this on our own site. When we first started in with this agency, we decided that we were going to have a fun blog post where we went through the 100 worst songs in the world. Somebody published a list, I can't remember who, and we were going to rank them. And we did. Except then we ranked really well for the 100 worst songs in the world for a long time. And obviously not great content for a digital marketing agency, totally useless. I'm sure that you too have this kind of useless content coming onto your site. So think about those people. And then you have the people who will be a customer one day eventually. Obviously, this is where all the sessions that we've had today have come into the idea of bringing in these customers. And then the third part is that they're already a customer. You know, they're happy, maybe they're not happy, they've signed up, they are using your product or your service on a regular basis. The problem is that most marketing right now focuses on 1 and 2, the potential. Sometimes you're not focusing necessarily the people who are never going to convert, but you don't necessarily know that. And you're definitely trying to focus on the people who are going to convert. But sometimes, unfortunately, the new customers get a little prioritized over the existing customers. And you see that a lot, especially with things like cell phone contracts, where you say unlimited data forever if you sign up today. And then you call as an existing customer and say, can I get the unlimited data? They're like, oh, no, you are already a customer, so too bad for you. So I want to encourage you to think about the fact that your job is not over when the customer converts. You need to keep doing what you're doing, but you don't want to just say, hey, great, I made the sale, ring the bell, and then you move on to the next sale. That's not our job as marketers. As salespeople, really, the focus is a little bit more there in sales, but it's also the salesperson job. And really, it should be, and I mentioned this in one of the answers I had in the AMA yesterday in Growth Hackers, this should be 1% of everyone's job. Everybody should be thinking about how to keep customers in your organization, because without customers, I'm not entirely sure how you think you're going to get paid. So it's really important to make sure that those customers are there and they feel welcomed and they're happy with you and what you're doing. And the other part of it too is that brand experience doesn't end when you buy something, right? You want to feel like this experience has been good for you. You want to feel like you've got this nurturing thing going on. And so how do you continue to nurture that relationship? How do you make someone feel like this has been a good relationship for them, not just for you. And a lot of what we're going to cover in this presentation is how to nurture those relationships, and a lot of tactics, some data-driven, some less so, on how you can continue to nurture that relationship after the sale. So I'm going to start with some examples. Most post-sale interactions are divided into a few different areas. One of the big things that people do all the time, everybody loves customer surveys, right? Let's find out how our customers are feeling. So we're going to send them a survey. And I have some real examples from real companies that I personally have received. And I have grayed out all the names to try to protect the innocent. If you think you know who it is, please don't tweet it out and shame them. I don't want to shame anybody here. I just want to show examples of stuff that is not working. So here's the first example. This is from one of our providers, and I get these emails on a semi-regular basis. This one has been a series of 4 different emails that I've received. So let's unpack what's wrong with this particular email. First off, it's been sent from someone who I've never heard of before. I don't know this person's name. They aren't my account manager. They've never introduced themselves to me, and I don't really know who they are. So that's, disconcerting. The other part is, who is this email coming from? That domain name up at the top, Medallia, is the company doing the survey. It is not actually the company that I give my money to. So that also puts up your antennas, like, who exactly am I talking to here? And then you Google them and you say, oh, it's one of these customer places. But why couldn't that be the domain name of the actual, company who I'm paying money to? And final reminder, that's a scary phrase. That's not what you want to see in your inbox, right? And I get that people use tricks to get people to open up their emails, such as, following up with you, or do you have time to call me today? Or I missed your call, or, things like that make you panic. Final reminder, that means that something bad is going to happen. That's not necessarily the association you want to have with a customer survey, where really you are asking the client for a favor. It's not the other way around. So don't scare them into providing your feedback. And you can already see the tag is trash. Like, obviously, this is what I did with this email. And really, you could make this email be for literally any company at all. You could insert, Netflix in here, Google, a car company, Samsung would like to hear from you. It could be any company at all. There's no brand voice here. I mean, Talia mentioned that I talked about brand and PPC. It's one of the things we really focus on is brand, and how important it is to have a strong brand voice and a strong brand personality that comes across. And think about who this email would not be from. For example, Slack would never send an email like this. They have a lot of focus on their brand voice, and it really shows in the kind of things that they send out to people. This just feels generic, and it feels like they don't care. And the other thing is, 10 options is a lot. Even Netflix has gone to the thumbs up, thumbs down. We live in a thumbs up, thumbs down world. And I think that what you're doing needs to reflect that. And so why wouldn't you say thumbs up, thumbs down? And then you can ask more questions later. But just for right now, I don't want to think about whether or not you feel like a 6 or a 7 today. I want to be like, am I happy or am I not happy? Just very binary. And the other thing is the subject line feels sneaky. So it says, please take 3 minutes to provide feedback. I don't know if I'm going to sit there and think for 3 minutes about what number you are. So when I click, does that mean I'm going to go to a survey? Because I don't really want to. So the other part is that makes me feel like it's a trap. And then I don't want to click on it at all. And I have not, because I don't want them to contact me more. So I've just completely deleted it and ignoring it. And we're still with this company, but it's not a great customer experience. And it's something where I don't feel like they're the best company in the world. I don't promote them on social media. I don't get excited about it, because it's not a stellar experience. Other things too, like you open up an app to do something and like, hey, we have a survey. Well, I opened the app literally to use the app. So stop trying to ask me questions. And your thoughts on online advertising on the internet, that's my job. I have a lot of thoughts about online advertising in the internet. I'm fairly sure I don't want to take, say, an hour to answer those questions. So I can't imagine the pickup on this survey is particularly good, because it is so broad and short. Well, is short 1 minute, is short 10 minutes, right? And again, I just want to use the app. That's the whole point. So that's some examples of bad surveys. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite, invoices, the part where you get paid. So here is an example that I received quite recently, and I screen capped it for this presentation because I knew I was going to use it. I got an invoice from a company at 7:43 a.m. and then it was a due upon receipt invoice. And then 1 minute later, I got a reminder that in that 1 minute at 7:43 a.m., where I was not actually at the office yet, I need to pay that invoice. So I get that it's a little hiccup in their invoicing software. They didn't actually mean for this to happen, but that's not a great experience again. And so I like these people. I emailed them and I was like, hey, so this happened. They're fixing it, which is great. But at the same time, maybe you don't know that this is what your invoicing software has done and that it's gone rogue and it's starting to harangue people into paying their invoices right away, even a little aggressive, shall we say. Here's another example of an invoice from a tool that we use. So, a payment has been processed. That's great. Here's the amount. You can review your invoices here. Okay, so this part here, how is it going so far? We'd love to hear your feedback. We have been using this tool for 3 years now, and I went back and I looked, and every single email we've gotten has been the same. So after 3 years, I don't know if how is it going so far. We'd love to hear your feedback is the question you should be asking. Right? So think about how can you personalize these invoices to better represent the length of the experience that you've had with that organization. So say the first 3 months, and it says, how is it going so far? Then at 4 to 6 months, it says, offer a tutorial or a training, or hey, by the way, did you see this new feature that we released? And then in the 6 to 12 month, let's say you renew on a 12-month basis, you want to make sure that you're working your way towards making it easy for your sales team when they call and they ask for a whole bunch of money, right? Or if it's a monthly contract, what can you be doing? How can you modify these messages based on what people are using in your product and not using in your product if it's an online product? Is there a service that this person has purchased and they haven't bought the rest of the services that you have? Is this a good time to sell, or is there something related to it that you could try? These are all great tests to have, and really your invoicing software, if it doesn't support it, this is where an API would be a really good opportunity to work an API into this so that you could customize these messages specifically for every customer. And the third thing that you get when you're a client is you get sales emails, because this happens all the time. And so I have 2 examples of sales emails that I have received and I should not be receiving. So what happened was this is for a tool that we use, and I don't even want to say what because you might guess. So they had a webinar, and I thought this would be useful for our developer team here at Kickpoint. So I forwarded it to the developers, and they signed up for the webinar, and then they ended up in the funnel for this product. And then they got tons and tons and tons of sales emails from this company. And we really liked this company, and it felt really awkward that they were selling us when we're already a customer and we already give them a whole bunch of money. So I asked the developers to forward it to me. I forwarded it to them. They fixed the problem. But the fact that they weren't able to say, okay, so we know that Kickpoint is a customer, so anybody who has a kickpoint.ca domain, let's just not show them at all. That didn't happen. And I think that's something where, and I mentioned this later on, account-based management is really important. If your CRM or your marketing automation tool doesn't support account-based marketing, get one that does. One that does is Marketo, and I mean, they had a problem today with their domain name, didn't get renewed. I retweeted that earlier today if you want to see the backstory on that. But other than that, they're a great tool, and they are useful for account-based management. So that's something to think about too. Are you irritating people who are already your customer? And this is another example of a sales email that I got. And so, last time we talked, the timing wasn't quite right? Classic sales email. This is actually sent out via Salesforce. It's clearly automated, and yet again, reminding me what this tool is. And so I wrote them back and I said, we're already a client. Please check your database first. I was super annoyed. And actually, this was a point with this client where we were at, so this tool we were using rather, where we were actually already irritated at them. And this felt like just the last straw, that they were so incompetent that they couldn't even figure out in their database if we had signed up for it. And actually, I didn't even get a reply to this email, which would have been a great opportunity for them to say, apologize, try to win our business back, try to renew that relationship. Instead, they just let it drop off a cliff. And we did end up canceling our contract with this tool provider, and it was pretty lucrative for them. So it's frustrating that they just let this slip out of their fingers through sloppy account management. So please don't do any of these things. What you really want to do is you want to reinforce your customer's good decision. You want the customer to sit back and say, oh, I'm so glad I signed up for that product or that service. It makes me happy every single day when I look at my cell phone or when I open this tool or when I get this email, that I feel happy that I use this product, right? And I think I've mentioned Slack already. I think Slack does a really good job of nailing that. Every customer interaction is just on and perfect. And they do such a good job of making sure that they understand the needs of their customers. And really, something else that you need to do is your customer wants to enjoy being your customer, right? They want to feel like they're having a great time being your customer, right? Nobody wants to be like, yes, I'm a customer of this company or agency or whatever it might be, but it's a hard slog where we're working through it, right? Nobody wants that. That's not exciting for anyone. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what is your goal in all of this? What is the point of signing customers up in the first place? And why do you want to retain them? And really the goal is you want to turn your customer into a superhero for choosing you. You want them to feel like they are just an action hero. They're going to be starring in the next Marvel movie because they picked this, collaboration tool or, link building tool or whatever it might be. And they want to feel like they're awesome every single day for making that decision. And not only are they awesome, but particularly in the B2B market, they're let's say their superiors think they're awesome. Anyone they manage just thinks they're awesome. The whole company thinks they're awesome because they made the right choice for the organization. That's a really important feeling for people to have. It means that they get to keep their jobs, which means that you get to keep working with them, which means that you get to not have to sell to a new customer all the time. So now I'm going to go into the different ways in which you can nurture that relationship after the initial sale. The first part of this, I want to talk about social media. And full contact, I personally have mentioned this a ton of times in presentations. We love full contact. And if you haven't used their developer API, I strongly recommend looking into it. Here's an example of what you can do. So you take a whole bunch of email addresses, and this is a really old spreadsheet. You really can't share anything recent because there's so much actual real information that ends up in here. So it's a list of email addresses. You run it through full contact, and there is an API. This is an Excel sheet. They also have a great Excel sheet. You paste in all the email addresses, you click go, and then it runs it through their database, and it says, does this email correspond with any social profiles? So you can see their Twitter, you can see their Facebook, if they're on Cloud, YouTube, Google+, whatever profiles that they have, and everything comes back. And if they have name information, if they have their location, they will also enhance the profile with that information as well. So that's really useful. So what are you going to do with that? Well, obviously, you're going to follow, engage with your customers on social media. Just grab your newsletter list or grab your customer list, run it through full contact, hand that list over to your social person and say, all these people are people we need to engage with, right? Are they following you on LinkedIn? Are they fans of yours on Facebook? Do they engage with you on Twitter? And you don't need to say, hey, I found your Twitter account because we ran it through this really creepy tool, and now I have, now I can follow you on Twitter all the time and think about what you're thinking about. But just maybe just follow them and leave the how out of this, because a lot of people don't know you can do this stuff. Full contact works about, I would say, they have a really good return rate, especially on Twitter. I would say anywhere from 60 to 80% of the time they're able to return a profile. It's more so for American customers, less so for outside of the US. For us, about half of our clients are in the US, the other half are in Canada or around the world. And definitely American return rate is much, much higher. So if you have lots of US customers, definitely give it a shot. The great thing though about full contact is you only pay for the profiles that you return. So if you give them 1,000 contacts and only 500 of them come back, you're only charged for the 500. It's a really great product. I recommend checking that out. And then once you're following them, look at what they're sharing and how can you contribute to that sharing. And there's a few different tools to do this, but one of them that actually is really useful is Nuzzle, N-U-Z-Z, or sorry, Z-Z if you're American, N-U-Z-Z-E-L, Z-Z if you're Canada or elsewhere. And this is an example of my particular Nuzzle account. I took a picture of it this morning. And what comes up is, here's news from your friends. And this, it's interesting because Nuzzle's marketing is really focused on individuals who load up their Twitter accounts, and then you see what your friends are following, or you keep on top of news in your industry. But this is actually extremely useful for brand Twitter accounts, because then you can see what your clients who you're following are engaging with on Twitter in particular. And you can also, with the enterprise account, you can load up lists. So if you have a list of just your customers, then you can see what they're sharing on just that particular list. You can also do that for your competitors, for example. I mean, a bit out of the scope of this presentation, but something to think about for sure is what are different kinds of competitive and customer intelligence can we get out of this kind of information? And Nuzzle, the basic Nuzzle is free, so just give it a shot. The next question you need to ask yourself is, how can you be useful? So now that you have this data from your clients on where they hang out on social media, what do they engage with, what do they share, what can you do, again, to turn them into superheroes, right? So for example, Envision, which is a design application, they do a really good job of this. Check out their blog. It is all about how to help their customers be better. And that's something that you don't just get the Envision tool, which makes you a better designer because you're able to do real-time collaboration with clients. It's really good for commenting. It makes things a lot easier, but really their blog is all about making designers better. And that's their target market. And it's not about, look at this cool thing we do. It's, look at this cool thing we can help you do. And I think that that's a really important distinction for you to consider in the kind of content that you create. And speaking of content, let's think about better content. So first off, I really want you to monitor your branded searches constantly. Are you coming up with answer boxes? Should you be coming up with answer boxes? Do those answer boxes make sense? Is there a competitor ranking on an answer box? All that is obviously bad. And are you missing out on ranking opportunities? Are there words in the auto-suggest that should come up as you, but instead it's coming up with other stuff? You know, things like if you're in the retail space, brand name and coupon is a really popular phrase all the time, and a lot of companies are really bad at coming up for coupon searches. There's always those deal sites that are better at it. And really, Google is going to rank you. If you have a page with coupons, just put the effort in to make that happen. So really thinking about your branded searches and how they work together and how you can make them stronger for your audience. And additionally, think about how you reward your team, your marketing team. Do you reward people only if they create new content, or should you be rewarding people for fixing up old stuff? You know, there's nothing worse than going into a help document for a product and then seeing old screenshots in there, or they've renamed a button and nobody went back and changed it. So for example, Microsoft, they reward people on this scale. So a third on what they produced, a third on what they shared with the rest of the team, and a third on what they used that others produced. And so instead of focusing on the individual production, it focuses on how they create production for the team and how they make the whole team better, not just on their own individual, like, look at me, I'm a blogging rock star, I'm cranking out one blog post a week. Well, did you go back and edit an old blog post to make sure that it made more sense for your audience? Or, you know, did you fix up that help document that all these people are visiting but nobody's happy with? You know, things like that are also really important to consider. And then think about post-sale personas as well. So I'm sure everybody loved Claire's presentation earlier today about jobs to be done. So consider that personas aren't just for new business. They're extremely important for new business. Don't get me wrong. You need to know who you're selling to in order to sell stuff. But personas don't just stop there. What are the jobs to be done after the sale? When you're thinking about those jobs to be done, you know, I am a insert persona here who wants to do this so I can do this. What does that mean after they've got the product? What does that mean when they're considering renewing with you? Go past the sale and start writing out new jobs to be done. What are the jobs that you have helped them do, but does that create more jobs? Does that create different jobs? Does it open their mind a little bit to some possibilities they hadn't considered before? And that means that you need to be there as a resource for those different possibilities. You know, what are you solving, and what do you specifically not solve because you made a decision not to? How can you mitigate that and make sure that they're still happy with you? This is something that's really important. And then something else I want you to consider as well is, do you have accounts for each of your personas? Particularly if you have a SaaS tool or some sort of online tool. And this is also important if you have a B2B account, for example, that has regular email communications. Set up fake accounts for each of your personas. Try to hide these fake accounts. Tell your boss, obviously. I'm going to hide these accounts from, say, the customer service team so that they are getting the kinds of emails and interactions that a customer would get. And then you can look at that and say, wow, are we actually doing a good job of emailing these people on a regular basis? Is this useful? Is this interesting? Is there a way that we can improve these kinds of interactions? And this is something I think that a lot of people, we've sold it. Persona is done. We don't need to worry about it anymore. But that persona doesn't just magically fall apart the second they become a customer. So thinking about how you engage with them on a regular basis, and really this will vary by persona, is going to make a difference for your organization. And then the next point I want to talk about is segmentation. So I mentioned this earlier about account-based marketing. And if you're unfamiliar with it, it's instead of person-based marketing, which is what most marketing automation tools do, this is account-based marketing. So everyone in an organization. It's obviously more popular with B2B, but I think some B2C can benefit from it too. Thinking about things like, for example, internet access. And obviously when you buy internet access for your home, everybody in the house uses it. So maybe stop selling to somebody else who lives in the home. So this can be where account-based marketing can really come in handy, so that you remove those annoying sales emails. And it also really helps you strengthen your relationship with the organization, because you're taking the entire organization into account, not just the person you sold the thing to, who could, quit, move on, get fired. So that helps you not lose it once it gets to the point that maybe that'll happen to you. And not every automation or CRM platform supports this. So if it doesn't, I also have some workarounds. And if you don't use marketing automation, you can certainly do a lot of this stuff too, because not everybody has a budget to purchase an automation system. So one of the things you can think about is segmenting your customers with Google Analytics custom variables. Definitely, and we have a blog post on the Kickpoint website about building personas and using segmentation to separate out those personas. But if you are able to segment out your customers, so if somebody signs in, for example, toss a custom variable on that, and then you can view your customer segments separately from your persona segments. And then if you want to get extra fancy, you can mash together your persona segment with your custom variable customer segment, and then you can view how that persona engages with your site differently in the pre-sale versus the post-sale process. And really that can help you with your statistics as well. And plus, customers aren't going to convert. They're already your customer. So then you can remove them from your reports and look at your actual conversion rates, as opposed to an overall conversion rate that takes into account the people who have already converted and are never going to convert again. They already got your money. Just calm down there. The next thing to think about is to use a subscriber variable in your URLs. And this is really helpful if you send out an email newsletter, and let's say you have pop-ups on your site, or sales items, or something in the sidebar, sign up for our demo, right? All that is pretty typical CRO stuff. It's useful, it works. But if I am a customer or a subscriber, I don't want to see the sign up for our newsletter pop-up come up when I come to your website, literally from your email newsletter. So there's certainly ways that you can add variables to the URL that would hide that particular pop-up from showing up. You can also do a question mark customer variable as well, so that you're not showing them sales messages, but you're showing them, we love you, thank you so much for being a customer message. And most people don't find that creepy. They actually appreciate that you've put the time in to not irritate them. Because if I'm already subscribed to your newsletter, just stop emailing me. This is 2017. We know how the internet works. We know you can do this. It's just a matter of actually putting the time in to make this happen. And Help Scout actually is a company where we first saw this, and it's extremely effective for them. And you can also data mine phone calls. So we use CallRail, they're our favorite. And I recommend checking them out if you don't use a call tracking solution. And one of the things it can do is it can automatically transcribe phone calls that come in. Now, the transcriptions are not 100% perfect, particularly if people have extremely thick accents in English. One of our clients is in deep Texas, and the transcription service has a really hard time with it sometimes. But other than that, it works great. And we really like CallRail because then we can tag it as well. So let's say, for example, if somebody says the word appointment, and says, I need to make an appointment, then that would be a new client. If they say, I need to cancel my appointment, we want to flag that. If they say things like, this is my credit card information, or whatever it might be, then you can flag that, and then it can automatically tag the call based on that, which makes it a lot easier for you to go back and listen for these particular phrases. And then you can also listen for customer frustration phrases as well. If somebody says unhappy or angry, like says angry type words, think about sentiment analysis. You can also apply sentiment analysis to these transcripts and start to pull out, angry customers and see if there's a common theme and see if there's something you can do about that. The next part is, do you respect your customer relationship? And this is an important point as well, because certainly you see a lot of, particularly CMOs of very large organizations will say things like, we're in a war for customer attention. Everybody at attention. It's no, we're not in a war for customer attention. We're not gonna go down the street with a gun and say, pay attention to me or else. This is something where I think people get really aggressive and think, well, there's so many different messages. Well, the problem is that they're already your customer. The attention is that they gave you money. They're already paying attention to you. You are not in a war for more of their customer attention. And another phrase that I see all the time, and I hate this phrase, is surprise and delight. You do not need to surprise and delight. In some, surprise is also something, a lot of people like surprises, right? You don't want to come to a play and surprise, there's audience participation, or you show up and say, surprise, your car is gone. Surprise is not necessarily a good emotion for people to have. So keep that in mind as well, because really transferring money in your banking app is not a surprise and delight moment. I would be delighted if it worked. That'd be great, but I don't want to be surprised when I'm transferring money in my banking app. I don't want to be surprised and say, oh, I transferred money and I don't see where it is. That's a surprise, not a good one. So certainly just try to dial back the idea of that phrase and consider instead, what journey does your customer actually want to take? And the example that I'll say is, here's a good example. So you've opened up Google Maps and you want to get to this great restaurant that you heard about. So you open up Maps, you put in the restaurant, and you say, okay, Google, show me how to get there. Oh, and the okay Google, my phone just went off, and the okay Google on your phone, if it went off, I'm really sorry. So then the phone will take you there. And then let's say you get, maybe a couple blocks in, and then all of a sudden your phone says, this destination has been brought to you by, the Tourism Department of Alberta. And instead of taking you to your destination, it's going to take you to all these scenic landmarks out of your way, not actually on the way to your destination. And then half an hour later, it's actually going to drop you off at your destination. Let the customer decide the journey. Do not make them take a specific journey. And I know that customer journey mapping is really an important part of the customer process, but also respect the customer's wishes and what they actually want to do, as opposed to what you want them to do. Often surprise and delight usually means annoy and disrupt. Customers don't actually care that you have a new website. That's not worth interrupting their time for, unless it's going to make their lives easier. That'd be nice. I mean, I get that you're excited about your new website, but simmer down. Not everybody cares about it as much as you do. So I think that's something really important to think about is, am I actually surprising people in a good way? Am I delighting people by literally doing the job that people are paying us for? Sometimes just get it done. It's so rare often with companies for people to actually do what they say they're going to do. And I think just getting those basics right is way more important than surprising people. People would be delighted if you actually did the thing that they're paying you for. So ask yourself, why do people keep being your customer, right? Why do they hang on month after month or year after year? Think about gym memberships, right? I mean, why do you keep that gym membership well past when you should, when you're no longer going to the gym anymore? Why is that gym membership still coming up for you? So really, it's people hang on to it because they want to improve, because of the potential of the interaction. And once they feel the potential is gone, then they stop being your customer. So instead of letting them lose that potential, turn that potential into reality. What is your brand promise, and how are you delivering it every single day for your customers? Is there something that you can do to improve that interaction? Or is there a way that you can think about it in your customer? Why are they unhappy? What can you do? Why did they sign up with you in the first place? And are you delivering on that promise? I have some resources, some links of items that I've talked about. And if you leave questions and comments, of course, I'm definitely going to add to that document with additional links that come out of the Q&A session. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I have to say that I think my head is going to hurt now from like all the nodding I've been doing, like, yes, 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 like the whole presentation. I was just so... retention is something that's so close to my heart, and I've written about it so much, and I do work on it with clients, but I don't feel that people understand it enough. And I loved your presentation because first, the surprise and delight, wow, I was just the Google thing that, yes, surprise, you're not going anywhere. Like you're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's so much potential and there's so much revenue in actually keeping your customers, and companies are either not doing retention or they're just annoying them. They're just leaving.
Yeah. There's such a thing as too clingy, and I think that's something that companies need to, and this is why it's really useful if you do have those fake accounts, because then you can see if people are being a little too aggressive. I think that's something important to consider.
That is actually brilliant. I wrote that down in one of my comments in the chat. I was like, that is brilliant. I don't know how I've not been doing that, because that's such a great way to track what's going on and how people are receiving stuff. And the fact that, what intrigues me is that so many companies are failing at this. The fact that someone sent you with the wrong email and they didn't even bother to reply to you. That is crazy, right?
I did forward
that's an upsell opportunity.
I did forward that email off to my business partner, and I said, these yahoos, and we have a thread back and forth that I did not include in the presentation, but it was just like, all respect was just totally lost for this company, that they could not figure it out, that we're already a client, and not only that, we tweeted about them like more than once. So why are you not putting 2 and 2 together? And I actually think a lot of this, my very first job ever, outside of school, was at a CRM company for Lotus Notes. So you can see I'm dating myself here. And that was a product company, and it was a good company to work at. Actually, everybody who worked there ended up opening their own businesses. There was something in the water. But one of the things that they said on the first day when we said there is, do what you say you're going to do, and it's so much easier to retain a client than it is to sell to a new one. And keep that in mind, because that is what's going to save us money. And that's something that I learned super early in my career. And I hope a lot of us in marketing are always focused on the top end of the funnel, when really it's the bottom part that's easier to keep on.
Completely agree. Dana, thank you so much. This has been so enlightening, and I'm so happy that we managed to have you and hear all this fantastic information. It was brilliant. And thank you everyone for attending. This has been such an enlightening day for me. I've never done one of these events. So thank you for sticking and making it through the day. For me,
I was going to say too, before we sign off, if people do have questions and maybe want to sit on it and digest, it's been a long day for sure, definitely tweet at me, and I'm happy to answer any questions at all. And in the document, that link that I included at the end of my presentation, I'm going to tweet that out. And my email address is there as well. If you have questions, feel free to email me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're going to be releasing some of the recordings, and we're also going to be sending out basically a summary of every presentation. So you'll get all of that in your inbox soon. Thank you everyone so much for attending. It's been fantastic. Any comments, any feedback, any questions, just reach out to us. We'd be happy to help out. And it's 11:30 p.m. here, so I'm signing off. It was great. Thank you everyone for keeping, and thank you so much, Dana. Have a great night, day, morning, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.